Good evening. Let your body soften into whatever is holding you right now. A pillow, a mattress, the quiet weight of a dark room. Let all of it hold you. There is nowhere else you need to be. You do not need to sit up for this. You do not need to take notes or memorize anything. Everything we talk about tonight will still be true tomorrow, and the night after that, and many years from now. It is that kind of idea, an old idea, a reliable one. Tonight, we are going to think about something very simple, something so quietly obvious that people walk past it every single day without pausing to notice. It is this: a coin you hold in your hand today is worth more than the exact same coin offered to you 1 year from now. That is the whole idea. One sentence. And yet, underneath that one sentence, almost every serious financial decision a person ever makes is quietly resting. When you understand it, really let it settle in, something shifts in how you see money and time and patience. We will turn it over slowly tonight. We will look at it from several different, restful angles. We will let it come to you rather than asking you to chase it. So let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. Take one slow breath. We are in no hurry here. Imagine someone offers you a choice. They will give you $100 today, or they will give you $100 exactly 1 year from now. Same amount, the same number on the bill, guaranteed either way. Which do you choose? Most people feel the answer immediately, without needing to think very hard. They would take the money today. And they are right. Not because they are greedy or impatient or bad at planning ahead. They are right because of something true and quiet in the nature of time and money. The coin in your hand today can do things. It can be tucked gently into a savings account where it will grow just a little slowly, softly, over the year ahead. By the time that year is over, it will have become slightly more than $100. Not dramatically more. Not in a way that changes a life overnight, but more. Gently, honestly more. The coin promised for next year, on the other hand, has not started working yet. It is sitting still somewhere in the future. It is waiting to arrive. It has not grown. It has not even begun. And there is something else too. A coin you have today is certain in a way that a future coin simply cannot be. You hold it. It is real right now. a coin promised for later carries, even in the most trustworthy arrangement, just a small whisper of uncertainty. The future is always, by its nature, a little less fixed than the present. So even without any complicated reasoning, you can feel this truth. Time is a kind of value. Starting earlier is worth something real. That quiet head start matters, and it matters more than most people realize at first. This is the heart of what people call the time value of money. It is not a complicated theory. It is not something invented in a university. It is simply a way of naming something you already feel, that a thing you can use today is worth more than a promise of the same thing later. Let yourself sit with a simple image. 2 seeds, side by side on a table. Someone offers you one today and promises to hand you the other in 1 year. If you take the first seed today and plant it carefully in good soil and water it, then a year from now, it may already be a small, reaching thing, a beginning of a tree. The second seed, which you will only receive next year, has not even been planted yet. It is still waiting. Same seed, entirely different situation. Money in a quiet way is like this. When you have it matters, not just what you have, but when. There is a name for the cost of not having your money yet. It is called opportunity cost. It is a gentle phrase for a gentle idea. Every time you wait for something, or every time your money waits instead of working, you are quietly giving something up, paying a small, invisible price, not in a dramatic or frightening way, but in a real and steady way. The cost accumulates over time. Imagine you lend a friend some money. He says he will pay you back in 2 months. You trust him and you hand it over. 2 months come and go. Your friend asks for more time. 6 months total, he says. Same amount, I promise. He is sincere. You agree. But here is something worth noticing quietly beneath the surface of that generosity. During those extra months, the months between when the money was supposed to return and when it actually will, that money could have been doing something. It could have been sitting in your savings account earning a modest return. It could have been available to you if something unexpected came up. It could have simply been in your possession, part of your financial cushion, something you could act on if needed. Instead, it is elsewhere. It is unavailable. The time it spent away is time during which it could not work for you. This is what opportunity cost means. It is not a harsh phrase. It is just an honest one. Every period during which your money is not in your hands is a period in which you lost the opportunity to use it. The lost opportunity was real. The cost was real. It simply was not visible. Most of the time, in small amounts and over short periods, this cost feels negligible. And often it is. The warmth of helping a friend is real and worth something. Opportunity cost does not cancel out kindness, but stretch the idea outward. Imagine larger sums. Imagine years. Imagine debt that accumulates interest over a decade, or savings that never got started because the moment never seemed right. Suddenly, the cost of waiting is not invisible at all. It is the difference between a comfortable future and a difficult one, between a loan that stayed manageable and one that quietly grew heavier than anyone expected. Understanding opportunity cost does not make you less generous or less patient. It makes you more clear-eyed. It helps you see the full picture, not just what is visible in front of you, but the quiet current running along beneath it. And here is the other thing worth understanding. When someone borrows your money, they are receiving not just the money, but the time during which they have the use of it. That time has value to them. They can do things with your money that they could not do otherwise. This is why, in formal arrangements, borrowers pay interest, not as a punishment, simply as an acknowledgement of the value of the time during which they had the use of something that was not theirs. Interest is the price of time, the rent paid on borrowed money. And once you understand that, interest stops feeling arbitrary or punitive. It is simply honest accounting for something real. Let me offer you an image. You do not need to hold it tightly. Just let it drift through you as you rest. Imagine a river. The river flows in one direction, always forward, always toward the sea. You cannot step into the same river twice, the old saying goes, because the water has always moved on. Time is like this. It does not reverse. It does not wait. It simply continues steadily in one direction. Now imagine that somewhere upstream it is raining. Gently, a soft, steady rain falling into the water. A little further downstream, more tributaries join. And further still, more streams find the river and add themselves to it. By the time the river reaches the sea, it carries far more than it held at its source. It has gathered as it traveled. Money moving through time works something like this. A sum placed carefully into a growing environment, even a modest, unhurried one, moves downstream through time and gathers more as it goes. Not dramatically, not in a way that keeps you awake with excitement. Quietly, steadily, the way rivers move. A sum of money that you put to work today will be larger in 10 years than it is tonight. Not because you did anything especially clever. Not because the world was particularly kind. Simply because time passed, and while it passed, growth added to growth, very gently, the way water adds to water in a river. And here is the quiet other side of that image. A sum of money that you will receive 10 years from now is, in today's terms, worth a little less than it will be when it arrives, because it has not yet made that journey. It is still sitting upstream, waiting for the current to carry it to you. It has not yet had the chance to gather. This is why, when people talk about the present value of something, they mean exactly this. How much is that future sum worth right now, today, before time has had the chance to work on it? The answer is a little less than the future number suggests, because it has not yet traveled. It has not yet gathered. Think of the future money as a rain cloud upstream. It is real. It is coming. You trust it will arrive. But right now, it is still vapor. Still a promise. The present value is what that promise is worth today, translated carefully back into the currency of the present moment. You do not need to calculate anything tonight. Just let the image rest with you. The quiet river, the steady rain, the way everything flowing forward through time gradually gathers more than it started with. That is the shape of how money and time are connected. We have been thinking about how waiting has a cost, how money sitting still loses something it could have had, how delay carries a quiet price. But waiting, when done with intention, with direction, with a patient eye on something worth waiting for, can also be a gift. A quiet, compounding gift that builds over a long time. Here is the soft and beautiful flip side. When you are the one who gets to wait, when you have placed your money somewhere sensible that will grow, and given it permission to simply work, then time is working for you, not against you. You become the river, gathering as you travel. This is the whole quiet idea behind long-term investing and saving. You are not trying to outsmart anyone. You are not racing against a deadline. You are not watching charts or hunting for the perfect moment. You are simply planting a seed in fertile ground, walking away, and letting time do what time does. The growth each year becomes part of the new balance. That larger balance earns a little more the following year, and a little more the year after that. Each layer builds quietly on the last. The tree drops seeds. The seeds become trees. Those trees drop more seeds. This process, growth compounding on growth, does not announce itself. It does not make a dramatic entrance. For many years, it barely seems real. The tree is just a small, unremarkable sapling. Then, slowly, it is not so small. Then one day, you look up and realize the canopy is wider than you expected. You may have heard the word compounding used in financial conversations. It simply means this: growth that applies not only to what you started with, but to everything that has grown since the beginning. The snowball rolling down the hill picks up more snow because it is already a snowball. A single flake rolling alone gathers almost nothing. The snowball can gather a great deal. Time is the hill. Patience is what allows you to let it roll. A person who puts a modest amount aside every month, not a spectacular amount, just a patient, regular, steady contribution, and who keeps doing so for 20 or 30 years, builds something that would surprise them if they could see it from the very beginning. Not because of any single brilliant decision, because they gave time something to work with. The amount they put in each month may be small, but the total accumulation after decades of compounding tends to be meaningfully larger than the sum of what they contributed. The difference, the part that exceeds their contributions, is what time and growth created. The part that arrived as a gift for having started and continued and left things alone. This is the time value of money in its kindest form, not the version where waiting costs you something. The version where patient, deliberate waiting rewards you. Quietly, more than you might expect. There is a gentle concept in finance called discounting. It sounds a little technical, but it has a lovely, simple image inside it. Imagine that in 5 years, you will receive some money. Maybe it is a payment you are owed, or the maturity of something you put aside, or simply money you know is coming. You trust it. You just do not have it yet. The question discounting asks is, How much is that future money worth to you today? And the answer, we know by now, is a little less than the future number, because it has not yet had the chance to work for you, because you cannot use it yet, because time has a cost and waiting has a price, and the present has a value that the future has not yet earned. Discounting is the process of working gently backwards, taking the future value of something, the number it will be when it finally arrives, and translating it carefully into what it is worth right now, before the journey, before the growth. Think of it as looking at the river and asking a question in reverse. This water will reach the sea in a week. What does it look like right now, still upstream, before it has gathered everything it will gather on the way? The answer depends on two things. How far away is the future? And how much does time cost in this situation? The further away the money is, the smaller its present value. A payment coming in 10 years is worth less today than a payment coming in 1 year, everything else being equal, because you have to wait longer, because there is more river between you and it. And the more valuable time is in your situation, the more your money could be earning if it were in your hands right now, the more you discount that future payment. Because the gap between what you could do with the money now and what you will receive later is larger. You do not need to sit with numbers tonight, but the feeling of this matters. You have already done this instinctively many times in your life. You have been offered something later instead of something now, and had to decide whether the wait was worth it. You have weighed the size of a future reward against the reality that today is more certain and more useful than later. That weighing, that quiet calculation of whether the future thing is worth enough to compensate for the wait, is exactly what discounting is. A formalized version of something you already do. Financial people use it constantly. When a business asks whether a new investment is worth the cost, they estimate all the money that might come in over many future years, discount each year's money back to the present, and ask, is this, in today's terms, worth more than it costs today? The answer depends entirely on how you value time, and different situations call for different answers. But the question, this gentle, backwards-looking question of what future money is worth right now, is one of the most important questions in all of finance. And now you understand why it is asked. Here is something that might settle softly into you as you lie there in the quiet. Every financial decision you ever make has a clock hidden inside it. When you delay starting something by even 1 year, that clock has run. When you leave money sitting idle instead of letting it work, even modestly, the clock is running. When you pay for something slowly over a long period instead of quickly, the clock is part of the cost. When you leave a debt growing with interest instead of addressing it, the clock is ticking. This is not meant to cause worry or restlessness. The point is not that you are always running out of time, or that every moment of rest or spending is a wasted opportunity. That would be exhausting, and it would also be wrong. Rest is not waste. Enjoying the present is not financial failure. The point is softer and quieter than that. The point is simply that time is one of the things money moves through, and moving through time has effects. Good effects when you have set money to work and left it to grow. Quiet costs when you have let time pass without giving your money anything useful to do. When a young person begins putting a small amount aside each month, and another person waits until they are older, the one who started early will almost always end up with more, not because they were wiser or more talented or more fortunate, simply because their money had more time to travel down the river. Time was the ingredient, not brilliance, not luck, not a perfect strategy. Time. This is why the advice that returns again and again in financial wisdom: start early, start small, start imperfectly if you must, but start is built so directly on the time value of money, on the quiet and reliable truth that beginning sooner is worth something real. The clock is not a punishment. It is simply there. And knowing it is there, even just knowing it softly, the way you know things you have absorbed over time, is a quiet kind of power. It helps you notice calmly and without urgency which direction time is running in any decision. It helps you ask before you delay whether the delay is worth it. Sometimes it is. Sometimes rest is the right choice, and waiting is the wise course, and the present sacrifice is genuinely worth the future gain. The clock does not always argue for speed. Sometimes it argues for patience. But sometimes, often, the right answer is simply to begin today with whatever is available, even imperfectly. The clock will do the rest. there is another way that time changes the value of money, and it is worth visiting tonight, even gently. You may have heard the word inflation. It is not a frightening word, even though it is sometimes used that way. It simply describes the general tendency for prices to rise slowly over many years. A simple meal that cost a certain amount 20 years ago costs a little more today. A bus ticket, a loaf of bread, a month's rent, not because they became more valuable in some profound sense, but because money itself, quietly and gradually, purchases a little less than it once did. Prices rise. Wages tend to rise with them over long periods, but the number on a bill stays fixed, and over time, that fixed number buys less. This is one more reason why a coin today is worth more than the same coin promised in the future. Because in the future, that coin will not stretch quite as far. It will still be a coin. The number stamped on it will be the same. But what it can do in the world, what it can buy, what problems it can solve, will have shrunk just a little. When you keep money somewhere that grows, even modestly, even only enough to keep pace with rising prices, you are doing something important. You are making sure your money does not quietly lose its power just by sitting still. Money that sits completely still in a mattress or a jar is not safe. It looks safe. The number does not change, but the world changes around it. What $200 could comfortably do today will likely need 200 and something to accomplish in several years. The still money cannot follow. Money in an account that grows even a little, enough to keep pace with the gentle drift of prices, or a little more, holds its real value. It can still do in the future what it would do today. This is not about becoming wealthy. This is about preservation. About making sure that what you save today still serves you when you need it, without having quietly eroded in the meantime. Inflation is one of the invisible, patient forces in financial life. It does not announce itself from year to year. It simply continues. And knowing it is there, running in the background, is part of understanding why time and money are so deeply connected. People who feel most at ease with money, not always the ones who have the most of it, but the ones who carry it with the least anxiety, tend to share a particular quality. They think in long arcs, not because they are obsessed with the future or afraid to enjoy the present, not because they have sacrificed everything now for a distant day, but because they have, somewhere along the way, absorbed the quiet truth that decisions compound. That what you do today does not stay the size it is today. That small, patient, consistent choices have a way of becoming large, solid, peaceful things over time. The time value of money is not just a concept for calculations. It is a way of seeing. When you understand that money today is worth more than money later, you also begin to understand that the reverse can be a gift you give yourself. When you choose to give time to something, to plant it, to leave it, to resist the urge to pull it up, and check the roots every few days, you are using the same principle in its most generous and patient form. You are saying, I know this will be worth more later. I am willing to let it become what it becomes. That patience, that long, unhurried, deliberate willingness, is one of the most valuable things a person can bring to their financial life. Not intelligence, not insider knowledge, not perfect timing or exceptional luck. Just the calm, reliable willingness to begin and to keep going and to leave things alone long enough for time to work. There is a particular freedom that lives in this understanding. When you know that time is doing some of the work, when you have set something in motion and given it a long enough runway, you do not need to panic when things move slowly. You do not need to check every day or change direction when the news makes noise. You can simply let it be. You can rest. The tree does not worry about growing. It does not examine its branches in alarm or compare itself to trees it cannot see. It simply continues, season by season, year by year, without your attention, without your anxiety. It grows because that is what trees do when placed in reasonable conditions and left in peace. Money allowed to work in a modest and patient way can behave something like this. It continues without your constant management. It accumulates without your constant supervision. It builds slowly and without drama, the way all growing things build when placed in a decent environment and left undisturbed. Thinking in long arcs does not mean ignoring the present. It does not mean sacrificing every pleasure or comfort for a future that may not arrive exactly as imagined. It means holding both, enjoying today and planting for tomorrow, not in tension, but in balance. That balance, the one that honors both now and later, that takes seriously both enjoyment and accumulation, is what financial wisdom, at its quietest and most durable, looks like. You do not need to solve anything right now. There is nothing to calculate in the dark. No account to open, no decision that must be made before morning. All of that, if it ever needs to happen, can happen in the daylight. When you are rested and clear and looking at things with fresh eyes. Tonight belongs to rest. All you did tonight was let an idea settle in you for a while. The time value of money. Money today is worth more than the same money later. Waiting has a price, the quiet giving up of what the money could have become. Patience has a payoff, the quiet gathering that happens when money is given time and left in peace. The future can be brought gently home to the present and compared honestly to what we have now. And underneath every financial choice, every one, there is a clock running without alarm, reminding us that when matters as much as how much. These are not urgent facts. They do not demand action in the dark. They are simply true. And now they rest a little more fully inside you than they did before you closed your eyes tonight. That is enough, more than enough. When you wake tomorrow, these ideas will not be loud or demanding, but they may be there quietly when a decision asks you to think about time, about whether to wait, about whether to begin, about whether the patient choice might quietly be the better one, about whether the clock is running for you or against you in this particular moment. You may find your mind moves a little more easily toward the right question. Not what does this cost right now, but when does this begin to work? How long can I let this grow? What does patience look like here? Those are the questions the time value of money invites. Quiet questions, long questions, the kind that do not need answers tonight. Let the idea dissolve slowly into the stillness. You have spent this hour with something real and true. You have turned it over slowly, from a few different angles, the way you might turn a smooth stone in your hand before setting it down and resting. A coin today is worth more than a coin tomorrow. Waiting has a price. Patience has a payoff. The river flows forward and gathers as it goes. Every financial decision has time running quietly inside it. You knew some of this already. You felt it before you could name it. Tonight you gave it a name and a shape and a little more room inside you. Let your breathing slow now. Let the thoughts soften at the edges. Let the mind do what the mind does when it is left alone in the dark. Whatever is growing in your life tonight, the patient choices you have made, the small seeds planted in ordinary days, the quiet accumulations happening right now without your attention, all of those are continuing. The river is still moving. The rain is still falling upstream. The roots are going deeper in the dark without you needing to watch. Time is doing its work. All you need to do is rest. Good night,